Hey everyone, so it turns out that 343 did in fact read the room, and after the holidays a lot of work is going to be done by 343 on fixing Halo Infinite's various issues. Jerry Hook, the head of design, was interviewed by Sketch, our community director, funnily enough, an hour before I uploaded my own video, and in this interview a lot of the points that I raised were actually discussed. I'm going to tell you what was discussed on this live stream that they did, and then give you my own thoughts on it. So here are the key takeaways. The design team wanted Halo Infinite to be this first-in-class, free-to-play game when compared to the others, and because of that, they sort of laser-focused on that free-to-play concept of starting small and then branching it out over time. They expected a lot of pushback from the community because these kinds of transitions are weird. Halo used to be a boxed model where you paid for a ton of content, now it's free-to-play, but the pushback that they got from the community was much harder and much louder than they were anticipating, so they sat down and explored all areas of the game and basically came up with what they could fix short-term and what would require a bit more time to fix. So the infrastructure and design of the challenge system in Halo Infinite was initially tied pretty heavily to the playlists and their rotational or timed events. So they worked as fast as they could to untangle some of the challenges from the playlists and open up the game to have a bit more room for, well, playlist choice. They also heard feedback from people that there needs to be more ranked playlists, and they do agree they're already internally mapping out stuff, but due to the competitive nature of ranked, it's going to take a bit of time to assemble and balance stuff, as opposed to social where there is a bit more wiggle room for, fun sloppiness. Now, pivoting back to challenges quickly, they already implemented performance-based challenges to get a read on how those would do in a live environment for data purposes in designing future performance-based XP models in Infinite. They're going to continue to make tweaks and changes to the challenges over time and improve the pacing of them. So if you've noticed some performance-based challenges, keep an eye on those. Now, in reviewing the feedback from the Fractures Tenrai event, the team pretty much agrees with the community that it wasn't great. And Jerry said the design team also pulled internal developer feedback, and funny enough, even the developers lined up with the community and agreed that it wasn't really fantastic. So the next time that we see a live event from 343, it is not going to be in the same style as the Fractures Tenrai event, which is good. Jerry also went on to explain what exactly happened with the marketing material for the Tenrai event that had armor that couldn't actually be earned via gameplay. It was essentially a miscommunication between the marketing team and himself. So the business team already planned for this armor to be in that rotational store, and Jerry didn't actually catch that the marketing material was showing that shop-exclusive armor until it was too late. As a recompense for the mistake, he sat down with the business team and was able to advocate for more cosmetics to be earned via gameplay in the next Fractures Battle Pass. He said there's going to be less challenge swaps and XP boosts and more actual content in the pass. And the next event will also have a more consistent and focused drip feed of event-themed challenges instead of kind of road-blocking your progress with unrelated challenges. They then showed off a teaser for the next live event and then got back into it with some harder questions. What did the team learn they need to focus on once they get back from the holidays? So Jerry said that the team is going to have to find a rhythm for regular updates and balance patches. If you hadn't noticed, the game's received no bug fixes or patches since release, and that's really just because the team launched the multiplayer and then had to immediately turn around and get the campaign out the door. And now they're all exhausted and they're going to enjoy the holidays with their family. Once they get back, they've got to find that rhythm in order to keep people entertained, because there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of balancing and definitely bug fixing. And yeah, I'm glad they were able to get the game out the door, but oh boy, there is a lot of polishing that needs to be done. There's quite a lot to fix. Jerry said the team is also going to be improving the reward structure of the game, with him even agreeing that things like emblems are not an incentive to grind. Jerry and the design team are also not a fan of their XP boost system. They also want to improve their UI elements for the challenges and just overall clean up the presentation and make everything a little bit more readable and easy to understand. They also surprisingly want to reevaluate how to improve the store. They knew that switching from that paid model to a free-to-play model would be a rough transition, and they're hoping to maybe break away from some of the traditional free-to-play tropes that they thought would do well, and make a business model that's more balanced, give players the customization that they want, but also provide ways for 343 to fund future game content development. The ranking system, matchmaking system, and UI are also going to be addressed once the team gets back. He also wanted to say that the feedback from the community was so focused and crystal clear on certain issues that the internal teams at 343 now have very clear areas of focus for the game that will drive much of 343's work after the break. Jerry wanted to thank folks for feedback, discussions, and suggestions made. He also wanted to thank folks for the negative feedback, because a negative reaction to something in a game is still feedback. You know, that means that that thing needs work. What is not feedback is threatening developers over a video game, threatening to dox their addresses to the internet, and, you know, just that stuff. Which it was kind of weird to see a grown adult asking other grown adults to not do that over a video game. And I've seen a couple of drifters in my own comments section arguing that this is obviously all a lie to distract from their greedy scheme, and I'm too tired to argue with that Austin Powers supervillain cartoon logic, so I'm just gonna respond with the first word to come to my head right now: dish soap. The stakes are not that high, guys. This is a video game. And if you were not part of that crowd, you were just sternly voicing your criticisms of the game, don't worry, we're not talking about you. You're cool. We're moving on. They also wanted to set expectations that some things about the game can be fixed really quickly, and they're expecting them to be. Other stuff is actually going to require quite a bit of uprooting and time to rebuild. So basically, some fixes are going to take longer than others, and they want the community to be a part of that and looped into the design process. You know, they want the conversation to stay open. So Jerry Hook was very much on the spot during this Q&A, and Sketch was also in a position where he needed to be a bit aggressive towards a friend and coworker. Both of them, I thought, did a pretty good job at breaking down most of my concerns, at least, about Halo Infinite, and even clarifying why the mistakes that were made happened. It doesn't make me agree with the direction of the launch product, but at least now I understand the context and reasoning behind the mistakes that they made, and I hope that going forward, they learned something and that these mistakes are not repeated in the future. The way that they talked about Halo Infinite, it sounded like it was very fractured in terms of what different departments at 343 wanted for the game. And the current product does kind of feel like it's caught between two worlds that both want different things. You've got that traditional Halo model of player customization, playlists, and community-driven fun and variety. But then you've got the free-to-play Battle Royale model of using customization as a vehicle for microtransactions, using small playlist counts and developer-driven fun through timed playlists. I don't think that that free-to-play content model is compatible with Halo as a formula. Some more compromising does need to be done on the business side, and I'm happy that the business and design team are willing to make those compromises. I'm sure it's not easy to admit defeat on a business model and structure that you've been developing for years and you're sure it's going to work, but pivoting Halo towards a playlist and community-driven content model similar to like Halo Reach, with its timed events being community-driven, are the way forward in my opinion. Could you imagine if that Tenrai event, instead of just using a classic Halo game mode that was artificially withheld, if it instead had a custom game with infinite grappling hooks and energy swords on a forge map built to look like a feudal Japanese palace? That's more in the spirit of Halo to me. Halo 5 was at its best when the Forge mode and the community tools were popping and the playlists were driven by the weird modes and maps that the community made. Most live service games like Call of Duty Warzone and Apex Legends require multiple development studios to maintain and develop content for it. Well, 343 certainly got help from external partners in making their game, Halo Infinite. The live service component is now in 343's hands, and a lot of stress could be taken off of their developers if they focus now on community-driven tools like Forge mode, server browsers, theater mode, and letting fun custom games dictate the timed events. I'm glad that the design team understands that the business model approach to playlists and content at launch for Halo Infinite really isn't compatible with the kind of game that Halo is, and I hope that they know now where to go forward from here. Those are, of course, just my own thoughts. I have this bigger video in the planning phase in my brain about Halo Infinite as a Halo game and what it can do to improve itself. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on what can be improved about the game or added to it. You're free to share your thoughts down below. And as always, a thank you to the channel members for being pretty snazzy. I'll catch you guys on the next video, and yeah, that's kind of it. Bye.